Welcome back to my inner sanctum. I'm your hostess, Countess Elizabeth, mistress of the macabre. It is fascinating to me how people just go missing, never to be found ever again. What is even more fascinating is when people go missing in certain regions, like the Bermuda Triangle. Is it really these places that have something supernatural going on, or is it just coincidence? Today, my fiends, we will look into a lesser-known phenomenon of the Bennington Triangle, where 5 people disappeared around the same time or within years of each other. So, let us go for a hike in the woods, so we can explore our grotesque curiosity. Bennington Triangle is a nickname given by paranormal author Joseph A. Citro. He made this nickname to refer to an area of southwestern Vermont within which at least 5 or as many as 10 people have disappeared between 1920 and 1950. This mystery triangle centered around Glastonbury Mountain and includes some or most of the area of the towns immediately surrounding it, especially Bennington, Woodford, Shaftesbury, and Somerset. Glastonbury and its neighboring township, Somerset, were both once moderately thriving logging and industrial towns, but began declining towards the late 19th century and are now essentially ghost towns, unincorporated by an act of the state legislature in 1937. It is alleged that the Bennington Triangle also has been a hotspot for UFO activity, Bigfoot sightings, and strange lights and sounds. Other sources do seem to support that such folklore does appear to date back as far as the late 19th century. This includes the local folk belief that the Native Americans regarded the Glastonbury area as cursed and avoided it, as well as tales of quote-unquote hairy men and other strange beasts in the woods. Here are some of the missing people in the Bennington Triangle. The first recorded missing person attributed to this phenomenon is Mittie Rivers. Between 1945 and 1950, 5 people disappeared in the Bennington area. The first occurred on November 12, 1945, when 74-year-old Mittie Rivers disappeared while out hunting. Rivers was guiding a group of 4 hunters up the mountains. On the way back, Rivers got ahead of the group and was never seen again. An extensive search was conducted, but the only evidence discovered was a single rifle cartridge that was found in a stream. The speculation was that Rivers had leaned over and the cartridge had dropped out of his pocket into the water. The disappearance had occurred in the Long Trail Road area and Vermont Route 9. Rivers was an experienced hunter and fisherman and was familiar with the local area. There's been no trace of him ever since. The most famous disappearance in the Bennington Triangle is that of Paula Jean Weldon. Paula Jean Weldon, who was 18, was an American college student who mysteriously disappeared one afternoon while walking on Vermont's Long Trail hiking route. After finishing her shift at Bennington College Dining Hall, Weldon returned to her room and changed into walking clothes. Her clothes were adequate for the weather that afternoon, but did not anticipate for the drop in temperature that night. She packed no bag, took no extra clothing, and did not take any extra money. From all appearances, Weldon did not expect to be gone for more than a few hours. She walked down the campus driveway and hitched a ride from State Route 67A near the college entrance in North Bennington to a point on State Route 9 near the Furnace Bridge between downtown Bennington and Woodford Hollow. Local contractor Luis Knapp picked Weldon up and drove her as far as his house on Route 9, about 2.5 miles or 4 kilometers from the Long Trail. From this point, Weldon had either hitchhiked or walked the rest of the way to the start of the trail in Woodford Hollow. A group of hikers were walking down the trail as Weldon was walking up. She approached them and asked them a few questions about the Long Trail. Weldon continued to walking in a northerly direction on the road portion of the trail, now known as Harbor Road. She was on the Long Trail late in the afternoon and darkness was falling as she approached the end of Harbor Road. She may have continued into quickly darkening woods as it was presumed that she must have continued her walk along Boyles Brook Valley, although there are no known confirmed sightings of her past the Fay Fuller camp. Weldon did not return to campus. Her roommate thought she must have gone to the library to study for exams, but the next morning Weldon had still not returned. Once the college administrators were notified, they immediately started a search of the campus itself. The Bennington County State's attorney was notified, and the county sheriff was brought in to help with the search. Over the next couple of days, Weldon's visit to the Long Trail was discovered when one of the hikers she had approached identified her from a photo in the Bennington Banner newspaper where he worked. Weeks of searching ensued. Bennington College closed for several days, and the students and faculty participated in organized searches. Hundreds of volunteers, family members, National Guard troops, students, and firefighters searched for Weldon, to no avail. Ground and air searches concentrated on the Long Trail up as far as Glastonbury Mountain, 10 miles north, the trail's various branches, and along Route 9 from Bennington to Brattleboro. Most of the searching assumed Paula had just gotten lost in the woods. When no clues were found as to her whereabouts, other theories started to be considered. Alternative theories speculated that Weldon had been in unusually high spirits and had decided to run away to start a new life. was going to meet a secret lover and eloped with him, or had become injured and suffered from amnesia. Darker theories speculated that Weldon was depressed and may have took her own life, or that she might have been kidnapped or murdered. Another person who disappeared in the Bennington Triangle was James E. Tedford. Tedford, who was a veteran, went missing on December 1st, 1949. He disappeared exactly 3 years after Paula Weldon had disappeared. Tedford was a resident of the Bennington Soldiers' Home. He had been in St. Albans visiting relatives and was returning home on the local bus when he vanished. According to witnesses, Tedford got on the bus and was still on the bus at the last stop before arriving to Bennington. Somewhere between the last stop and Bennington, Tedford vanished. His belongings were still in the luggage rack, and an open bus timetable was on his vacant seat. Nobody knows what happened to him, or if he might have gotten off the bus without anybody noticing. The fourth person to vanish was 8-year-old Paul Jepson. On October 12, 1950, Jepson had accompanied his mother in a truck. She had left her son unattended while she fed some pigs. His mother was gone for about an hour. When she returned, her son was nowhere in sight. Search parties were formed to look for the child, but nothing was ever found, though Jepson was wearing a bright red jacket that should have made him more visible. According to one story, bloodhounds tracked the boy to a local highway, where, according to a local legend, 4 years earlier, Paula Weldon had disappeared. The fifth and last disappearance occurred 16 days after Jepson had vanished. On October 28, 1950, Frida Langer, 53, and her cousin Herbert Elsner left their family campsite near Somerset Reservoir to go on a hike. During the hike, Langer slipped and fell into a stream. She told Elsner if he would wait, she would go back to the campsite, change clothes, and catch up to him. When she did not return, Elsner made his way back to the campsite and discovered Langer had not returned, and that nobody had seen her since they had left. Over the next 2 weeks, 5 searches were conducted, involving aircraft, helicopters, and up to 300 searchers. No trace of Langer was found during the search. On May 12, 1951, her body was found near the Somerset Reservoir, in an area that had been extensively searched several months previously. No cause of death could be determined because of the condition of her remains. Langer was the last person to disappear and the only one whose body was found. No direct connections have been identified that tie these cases together, other than the general geographic area and the time period. Most of these people are still missing. Well, that was truly a grotesque tale. I wanted to cover this phenomenon, but personally I think that it's just a coincidence that these people ended up going missing in the same area around the same time. Also, that there aren't any modern disappearances in this area, at least that I could find. Either way, even if the phenomenon isn't real, there are 4 cases where people vanish without a trace, and 1 where they found their body. May those lost souls rest in peace. Thank you for watching the video. Subscribe, like, and share if you would also like to keep exploring our grotesque curiosity. We'll meet again in the darkness of the night.